Welcome back to Playful Whimsies. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to my 300 subscribers. I really appreciate the subscription. I am a small channel, and this is a side gig for me. So, tell your friends, anyone with children that just want to hear a good story, enjoy spending time in my channel. And let me know if there's anything I can do that would make it a more pleasant experience. I am still learning. I am still working on my materials. And so you will see a lot of changes. Now, today I have Cloudy with a Chance Meatball. And this is written by Judi Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. And I love this story. I love it far more than I want to say cartoon, but I don't think that's the right word, the movie Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs. And you'll see why. There's a huge difference. So, let's begin. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Look, there's Grandpa. And there's Henry and the 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 narrator. I apologize. All right, so seconds later, something flew through the air, headed towards the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. Look how surprised he looks. After we realized the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. Looks like a fun family breakfast. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean. There lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. Look at all the people going about their lives. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Look at the dog looking up. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soap and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and peas. And sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. So look at the hamburgers. There's potatoes and peas. I'm assuming this rain is juice. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. So that's cloudy, meatballs, soup was the prediction for that day. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way, they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerator in case they got hungry between meals. Look at that, pancakes. Ooh, pie. Looks like they're having chicken drumsticks. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast, butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. Whoop, pardon me. For lunch one day, frankenfritters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. That would be kind of messy. All right, here we go. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a graceful clearing with a wonderful jello setting in the west. Look at that setting. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Of course, they'd be flower gardens. They wouldn't need any food grown from the soil like you and I do. Life for the whoops, let me move this down. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worst. Chew and Swallow Digest. Spaghetti ties up town. Traffic snarled on intestine street. Oh, lower intestine street. Interesting. One day there was nothing but gargonzuela cheese all day. The next day, there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. I don't think I'd like that too much either. One day, there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. Huh. I wonder what the meal was. I think maybe that fish was part of it. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the proportions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. All the awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. I think I would start making bread forts if I were in that position. There was a storm of pancakes one morning, and the downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Of course, the kids don't look too unhappy about the school being closed. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. Look at that mess. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by the giant Meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. Oh, look at those giant donuts, the hamburger on the roof. Wow. So, a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. Look at that pickle. I think, as much as I love pickle, I probably wouldn't love a pickle through my roof. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread in sandwich style with peanut butter. Took the absolute necessities with them and set sail on their rafts for a new land. Look at what they're using: a piece of pizza and cheese with a strip of bacon on a peanut butter and well, it looks like a peanut butter sandwich raft. After being after being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well, well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. The children began school again, and all the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change was that they had to make what was change they had to make. I'll start over. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again, and nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. That was quite a story. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed this book. Again, this is the original book written by Judi Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. So enjoy your day, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Goodbye.